And welcome back. Well, we've got a great guest here now. William Craig III is a workforce trainer, coach, author, and he's here to help us to do what has been difficult for many of us. So during the COVID-19, some of us have lost our jobs. Some of us have been thinking about how we transition to new opportunities. And if you're an older worker, it's compounded by the fact that there may not be opportunities for you. So William Craig is in the house. And something else very special about William, turns out that we went to the same high school in New York City, the prestigious High School of Music and Art. William, good morning to you. Thank you for being on the program today.
Good morning, George. It's certainly a pleasure to be with you, man. And not just any high school, right? But the Fame High School.
The Fame High School, the High School of Music and Art.
Yes.
So William, talk to me about what this moment means for all of us in terms of our careers and how we navigate this moment now. You got 4 R's you think are very important for us to navigate this time.
Well, listen, George, people talk about transition. I heard you even say it. Transition. Another word they've been using is pivot. And for most folks, what does that really mean? And so I've broken it down to 4 R's. The transition means, number 1, you're going to have to reset. In other words, reset the clock on your business, reset the clock on your career. Whatever it was that you were doing, guess what? You may or may not be able to do that going forward. Number 2 is to reflect on the value. And we talked a little bit about this off camera, the value that you provide to your customers, the value that you provided to employers over the years. What is the value that you bring to the table? Number 3.
Well, before you go forward though,
sure.
I want to pause right there, because isn't it oftentimes that we undervalue our experience and undervalue the assets that we bring to the table and undercut ourselves in that regard?
Gosh, that's so right on point, because here's the truth of it. When we're doing it, we don't really see what we're doing and what the value that we bring sometimes. It's like the old saying, you don't see the forest for the trees. So when you're in the thick of doing what you do, ask most people who have been on their job for a while, what do you do? You know, they'll give you a very short answer for the most part. But are you telling me so for 8 hours a day, this is all you do? No, there are a bunch of things that you do that create value for that employer. And again, most people just don't understand how to articulate the value because they're not keeping track of the impact that they're having in that business.
All right. Number 3.
Number 3 is then you're going to have to retool. And what does that mean? That means you're going to have to get what's needed to deliver that value moving forward. So for a lot of folks, let's say a personal trainer, for example, they've been accustomed to providing certain value to their customers a certain way. Doesn't mean that they can't still provide that same value to their customers. They're just going to have to find a different way to do it. In other cases, it might mean doing something totally different, but using the same scheme, if you will, of providing value. And then the last of the R's is then you're going to relaunch. You know, with retooling, there may be someone that you're going to have to partner with, something that you're going to have to learn, some new tool that you're going to have to incorporate. You know, we're doing so much virtually now that people didn't have a clue that they were going to be relegated to using online platforms like Zoom and Teams, etc., to conduct business. But guess what? Now we are. And so you're going to have to embrace that. And once you do, then you're able to relaunch. And that's what transition looks like in the face of COVID-19.
Yeah, talking to William Craig III, all right, workforce development expert. And you in particular work with older workers, those workers defined as workers in their 40s and above. How is this period of time particularly either difficult or helpful to this particular workforce? I understand that there might be some advantages for older workers that they have not realized in terms of their own value.
Sure. Well, I've been very fortunate and blessed to be able to work with older populations now for almost 10 years. And they would always say, they're just not looking at me because of my age. And that's not always the case. That word value that we used a moment ago is so key. And especially during COVID-19. Why do I say that? Employers right now, guess what? They're having to transition. They're having to reset, reflect, retool, and relaunch. And what do they need? They need some folks who have some experience, who've been through a few things, who understand what good customer service is, understand how to get along with folks, understand how to get up in the morning and go to work, even if your big toe hurts. And so they're looking for folks who are adaptable, who are dependable, and all of those other soft skills that we talk about. Older workers bring that to the table. But here we go. The key is you've got to be able to express that value in your resumes, in your cover letter, in your pitch to that employer. And part of the problem is we don't know how to enumerate. We don't know how to actually put numbers, dollars, percentages behind what we've accomplished in the past for others. It's kind of like that old Janet Jackson song, "What Have You Done For Me Lately?" So at the end of the day, a potential employer wants to say, well, okay, what have you done? And that's not a laundry list of mundane duties and tasks. I was responsible. I had a friend. I was responsible for putting on events. And I'm like, no, I know what you did. Let's rewind the clock here. And what it turned out, that bullet point turned out to be, was managed 6 national events that generated over $80 million in revenue. Well, wow.
That would be my attention.
Come on now. You look at the bullet point, managed events, or responsible for managing events, and managed 6 national events that brought in over 60 million or $80 million. Which one do you think is going to get the attention of the employer? And that's one of the areas that especially older workers are really weak in, articulating their value in a way that makes a business case for that employer to say, hey, I need to talk to you. We need to talk about what we can do together.
I'm so glad you said that about the business case, because that is the case that we're in. And so many businesses find themselves unable to perform their business. You see every day businesses going out of business. I was talking to a guy yesterday, gyms here in New York are not able to open, and the governor has not given any particular timeline as to when they can open. And, they even tried to sue the governor to force his hand on this matter. So to your point, now what do? They've got all these buildings and they can't bring anybody in to do it. And so you're right, this idea of making the business case, but then if the business doesn't exist anymore or is not being allowed to operate, how do you, then we got to go back to the reset, retool, relaunch, and reflect. The reset, reflect, retool, and relaunch piece. But if you got a big building that you can't bring anybody in, that seems to be pretty tough for me. Or, it just made me think, isn't that what Peloton is, right? Aren't they like, talk to me, William. I just realized, right? Peloton, they're not in a gym, but they got a lot of people, right?
Well, it's just, mirror, that mirror thing, the Peloton thing. Again, most people had a mindset of this is how I'm going to do my business. And they were moving along quite successfully or unsuccessfully, whatever the case may be, prior to COVID. Well, COVID came and said, guess what? You're going to have to reset, reflect, maybe retool, do some things differently, and then relaunch. So you've got that big building. Guess what? Though you can't bring customers in physically, can you bring them in virtually? Get a camera, get things set up. I know of personal trainers who have literally been making hundreds of thousands of dollars during COVID. Are you hearing what I'm saying? Who've actually grown their business during COVID. Why? Because they reset their minds and said, okay, I'm going to have to do something a little bit differently. They reflected on the value. Well, what's the value? People were talking about all the weight they've been gaining because they've been at home eating their comfort foods, right? Having these virtual
banana bread.
Come on now. Okay. COVID-19 is actually the 19 pounds that you put on.
Word.
Right. But seriously, the end of the day, you've got to say, all right, what can I do to continue to bring that value? get my butt in front of a camera and do. Jack LaLanne taught us how to do it years ago, man.
Right.
You know, he was on TV and he had millions of people getting fit early in the morning, doing push-ups and sit-ups and crunches long before there was ever the Jack LaLanne gyms. So again, man, you've got to actually take a look at what the value is that you're bringing and then figure out how to bring that value in the midst of COVID-19. That's it.
All right, what's it? So, and I mentioned Peloton. Peloton, for those who don't know, it's like a bike, but it's also a video, and the trainer is there, and there's a community of people around the country working out with you virtually. All right, so what are we going to do now? What are our take with tasks, William?
So one of the things that I've put together a handy tool to help people, and if they'll go to transitionsecrets.com. Just no www. Okay, that's for old folks. All right. Just transitionsecrets.com. And they can get a free tool that will talk to them about the 3 secrets to getting hired during COVID-19. I don't care what age group you are. I've had the blessing to work in a community college, government agencies, and with AARP Foundation with their older folks. And for each age group, it remains the same. There are 3 basic things that you need to know in order to get hired. If you know those 3 things, guess what? You are on more than halfway on your way to getting there. So at transitionsecrets.com, they can get a free handout because guess what? I'm trying to bring my value to my audience, which happens to be people who are looking to transition into a new career, who are saying, hey, I'm trying to move up, or I'm trying to get a job and it's hard for me. That's what we're going to do next. We're going to prepare ourselves. We're going to reset, reflect, retool, and then relaunch.
William Craig III, workforce development expert, trainer, coach, author, and even radio host. And most importantly, he is an alum of the High School of Music and Art.
Yes, indeed.
All right, William, thanks so much. Transitionsecrets.com, free tool for you to take with and get yourself ready, even during this pandemic. We're going to make some great things happen. William, thank you so much for being on the program today. And we're going to try some of this stuff. We're going to make it work. Inspiration for the nation, some final thoughts, and then we launch our Community Inspiration Hour. Keep it locked. We're hooking you up with $1,000. Good job, William. Great work.
Thank you, sir.